Right now in South Korea, a disturbing and bizarre situation is actually unfolding right now. And it is happening within the digital shadows of one of the country's biggest, most vocal, and supposedly progressive online communities. We are talking about the illegal trade of medication abortion pills, drugs that are being passed around with the same trivial, reckless ease as someone sharing a recipe for a salad. While the rest of the world is busy arguing over how to make reproductive health safe, accessible, and properly regulated, the members of this massive self-proclaimed feminist bastion have decided that the best approach is to turn their own community into a high-stakes black market pharmacy. The real twist that makes this even more unsettling is that the people selling these unverified dangerous substances are often just anonymous users who have absolutely no medical background, no ethics, and zero accountability. Yet they are doing it with a terrifyingly efficient, casual speed that would make any professional, legitimate pharmaceutical operation blush.
Wait, how is this even legal? I thought this community was supposed to be a safe place, not a place to buy dangerous, unverified drugs from strangers.
That is exactly the question that investigators are asking, and the answer is that it isn't legal at all. In fact, it is a flagrant violation of the Pharmaceutical Affairs Act, an act that is supposed to protect people from exactly this kind of predatory, dangerous behavior. But here is the reality they have been trying to hide. In the digital fortress of these echo chambers, the laws of the Republic of Korea simply do not exist. They operate under a bizarre, self-imposed set of rules where the only thing that matters is maintaining the secrecy of the community, even at the cost of the health and safety of its own members. The chilling formula hidden beneath the surface is this. The fear of social judgment is so intense that they would rather risk their own lives or the lives of their peers than dare to step outside their digital bubble to seek proper medical care.
Look, I can get you the pills, but you have to pay up front and you have to promise that you will never mention my username. If the admins find out, I'm banned and you get nothing.
I don't care about the rules. I just need them by tomorrow. Are you sure they are real? I heard some people got fake ones that didn't do anything.
This is the daily reality of that community. The sellers are purely driven by naked, opportunistic profit, and the buyers are paralyzed by a toxic mix of intense fear and social shame. But why would they actually demand this? Why risk their lives instead of seeking proper medical care in the real world? It is not just some noble struggle for ideology, even though they will tell you it is. It is the raw, cold logic of a hyper-capitalist society where everything is a commodity, even reproductive health, even your own safety. The community is not a safe haven. It is a cutthroat market where people are aggressively fighting for their share of the financial and emotional pie in a society that offers them absolutely no safety net. They do not trust institutions, and frankly, why should they when institutions have failed them? But instead of fixing that, they have just privatized the problem, turning their own community into a dystopian arena where survival is just another transaction.
This is absolutely insane. It sounds like a total nightmare scenario where everyone is just using everyone else for their own survival, regardless of the consequences.
The reality is even worse than that. Now look closer at this shocking scene. These women are not acting out of a shared sense of liberation. They are acting out of an extreme, panicked survival calculation in a society that offers them no safety. They have been conditioned to believe that their personal problems are their own responsibility to solve in absolute secrecy, and if they fail, they are completely on their own. The real background behind their audacity is a profound, deep-seated distrust of every single institutional mechanism that is supposed to protect them. They feel abandoned, so they build their own lawless zones where they can feel, for a fleeting second, that they are the ones in control. But the real problem starts now, because this control is a complete manufactured illusion that is leading them straight into a preventable, life-threatening health crisis.
So what happens when they get exactly what they asked for? What happens when they get to act out this bizarre, contradictory fantasy without any outside interference?
The backfire is absolutely spectacular, and it is happening right under our noses. They scream about safety while selling danger, and they scream about autonomy while surrendering their bodies to the whims of anonymous black market traffickers. It is the ultimate capitalist punchline. They were so desperate to be free of the system that they became the system's most profitable yet most disposable commodities. The cold logic of capitalism has arrived, and it isn't punishing the patriarchy as they might claim, it is punishing them. They are sacrificing their own health, their own safety, and their own credibility on the altar of a false freedom. They think they have won because they have built a place without rules, but all they have really done is build a place where they are finally completely and dangerously on their own. This is not just someone else's problem. This is a clear, unmistakable warning of what happens when a society abandons its duty to provide safe, regulated, and humane options for fundamental human needs.
You really should go to a doctor. This stuff you bought online could be anything. It could kill you if it's not the right dosage.
I can't. Do you realize what would happen if anyone at work or in my family found out? I would be completely ruined. I have no other choice but to deal with this alone.
The chilling detail is that this dialogue is repeated in various forms over and over again. The fear is palpable, and it is this fear that keeps the black market thriving. The critical clue we absolutely cannot miss is that this behavior is a direct consequence of a society that has decided to ignore its own problems until they explode. If this continues, the long-term social consequences will be catastrophic. We will see an increase in preventable health crises, from incomplete procedures to severe life-threatening complications that the healthcare system is simply ill-equipped to handle, partly because the victims are too afraid to seek help when things inevitably go wrong. The normalization of this illegal, dangerous trade is a clear signal that the social contract in this country is fracturing, and the people most affected are the ones who are being told that their survival is just a private matter to be dealt with in the digital shadows.
But this was only the beginning. If the system doesn't change, won't this just continue to grow until it's too big to stop and we just see more and more people getting hurt?
Exactly, and that is what makes this so incredibly depressing. The real nature of this incomprehensible situation is that it has become a permanent feature of their landscape. They have built a digital fortress where they can claim to be victims, then turn around and victimize others, and as long as they shout loudly enough in their own space, they think they can defy reality. It is a perfect example of what happens when you combine digital anonymity with a society that is already deeply, profoundly isolated. They aren't just ignoring the law, they are actively building a parallel system where they hold the power, and they use that power to ignore the very health risks they claim to fight against. But the real problem is that you cannot ignore reality forever. Eventually, the reality of the danger they are facilitating will break through the digital wall. And when it does, the victims will not be the anonymous sellers or the moderators of these communities. They will be the very women who were pushed into this desperate, dangerous, and completely unnecessary situation in the first place.
This whole thing feels like a giant, tragic, self-inflicted wound. It's like they're running away from a problem in the real world only to find a much worse problem waiting for them in their digital safe space.
You have hit the nail on the head. That is the true tragedy of the situation. It's not just a drama, it is a warning. If you try to build a society where you ignore reality, reality will eventually come knocking, and it won't be bringing a pill. It will be bringing a bill you cannot afford to pay, and the cost will be your own health, your own safety, and your own future. They are sacrificing their own lives on the altar of a false freedom, and the most devastating detail that defines this tragedy is that it was entirely, completely preventable if only they had been able to trust in something other than an anonymous comment section. They are trapped in their own creation, a place where survival is the only thing that matters, and everyone is a potential customer or a potential predator. This is the ultimate grim demonstration of the survival of the fittest in an atomized, indifferent society where even the most fundamental human rights, bodily autonomy, and health have been commodified, silenced, and forced into the shadows of illegal trade. This is what it looks like when a society fails its people and its people in turn fail themselves. Fuel the truth at Dating in Korea. Support the structure. Stay safe in the lounge.